3, 2, 1.
Landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Liftoff and the clock has started.
Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Hi everybody, and my name is Chris Key. I am the current chair of the Space Camp Alumni Association. Welcome to AlumniFest 2021. I want to thank you all for joining us, and especially for your support over this past year, and especially with Safe Space Camp and supporting the U.S. Space and Rocket Center and Space Camp as a whole. The alumni were a large contributor to Safe Space Camp last year. Last year was very hard, and you stepped up and really helped us save the day. Over the remainder of the town hall, you're going to hear some exciting news and details about the new Space Camp Operations building that is currently under construction here at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. I'm sure you're excited as I am to hear more details and to support the new Space Camp Operations building. We'll be sharing details of how you can join with us to help support fundraising efforts over the next several weeks. Speaking of exciting news, this year has been amazing for Space First, between Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, which both included Space Camp Hall of Famers. We've also recently had the Inspiration 4 group that went up, which also again included Space Camp and Aviation Challenge alumni. I'm sure you're like me, watching with excitement as each of these alumni launched into space. I watched also on the sides as other alumni were connecting with each other in their own excitement. There are other ways that you can connect with other alumni as well as back with us by visiting spacecampalumni.com and signing up. We'd love to hear more from you and hear what other exciting things each of you are doing. So as you can tell, I'm at Aviation Challenge with the F-4 Phantom directly behind me. This year we started celebrating 30 years of Aviation Challenge. What we're doing this weekend is having a volunteering event down at Aviation Challenge to do cleanup to help take care of these aircraft and other artifacts that are here. And then afterwards, we're going to have a cookout. So if you're in town, we hope that you'll be able to join us. So as we continue celebrating 30 years of Aviation Challenge, I've been reflecting on my time here at the lake and all the memories that I made here, the lifelong friendships, the activities, the simulators, the slide wire, escape and evasion, the aircraft, and most of all, the teammates that I made here. We'd love to hear from you, and if you would, go ahead and comment below about your experiences. What are your memories? What did you take from this place? What were the lessons from here that you carried forward into the rest of your life? I want to thank you for joining us for AlumniFest 2021. Next up, we have Dr. Kimberly Robinson, the CEO of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. I'm sure you're interested in hearing about all the exciting things of this past season, as well as what she has planned for next year.
Welcome to AlumniFest 2021, and thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Kimberly Robinson, CEO and Executive Director of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. It is an honor and a privilege to serve in this capacity and to lead an organization that has inspired so many around the world for so long. To give you a little information about me, I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. I received my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Vanderbilt University and my master's and PhD in industrial and systems engineering from UAH. I worked for NASA for more than 31 years, where I started in the propulsion laboratory, working on shuttle bearings and designing tools for on-orbit use. I went on from there to serve in several roles, including several in operations for 7 shuttle flights, project integration manager for the Ares 1X experimental flight vehicle, and I was a NASA fellow teaching college at an HBCU. I was part of the study team that conceptualized the Space Launch System and served that project in program integration, strategic communications, and payload mission management, all of which culminated in me serving as Artemis Utilization Manager for the agency. Thank you for allowing me to be part of my first Space Camp Alumni Town Hall. I'm excited to be here to share the amazing progress we have made this summer. This summer, we welcome back Space Camp, Aviation Challenge, and U.S. Cyber Camp programs to trainees from the contiguous United States. Trainees were delighted to be at Space Camp. And as you know, from NASA missions to Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, and Inspiration 4, our alumni continue to fly. Let me share some of the highlights of summer 2021.
This summer, Space Camp programs return to educate and inspire the next generation of explorers.
Space Camp is back!
Aviation Challenge is back!
Cyber Camp is back!
Space Camp, now open in Huntsville, Alabama.
I am pleased to welcome Alabama's Governor Kay Ivey. Today is a milestone on our path to recovery. We are here today to proudly proclaim and celebrate the fact that Space Camp is back.
Folks, training and educating our students in technology in the 21st century is one of the best ways to equip a strong workforce.
We are also glad, Governor, that you're here during a week of salsa. It is a program called Space Academy for leading students of Alabama.
Funding for Space Camp, which has been by far the best week of my life, will give more opportunities to other kids like me who never thought this would be possible.
You know, it's important for these people just to learn some basic cybersecurity. It's just a skill set that's nice to have, and this sort of technological competence will help them no matter what they do.
Los Angeles Clippers player Paul George made a trip to Space Camp possible for some kids.
I've learned a lot of teamwork skills and that it's important to communicate, and also just critical thinking and like thinking on the spot and being able to come up with solutions. That's kind of what an engineer does.
The U.S. Space and Rocket Center has a new drone exhibit to check out, and our Jonah Karp has got a tour.
Let's go to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Brandon Spinner is our meteorologist from WAFF Channel 48, Huntsville, Alabama.
Welcome to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and we're here today to launch 3D Scan. 3D Scan is a breakthrough autonomy software product that makes it possible to capture everything from bridges to accident scenes with incredible precision.
Lunar rovers are left behind on the lunar surface. The legacy of the lunar rover is that we still have the engineering technology and know-how to create this wonderful vehicle that we can use as we return the next man and the first woman to the lunar surface in the near future.
This is the lunar rover, so one of the first electric vehicles ever made.
Wow. So why did we decide to use batteries instead of like gasoline or something else?
So, we had to come up with a power solution, and the batteries are reliable and safe.
It's time for Blue Origin's first human flight. Godspeed, first crew of New Shepard. Let's light this candle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Rocket Center offered an out-of-this-world incentive to get people vaccinated in a partnership with Huntsville Hospital. After people receive those second doses, they'll receive a ticket to come back and visit the entire U.S. Space and Rocket Center. The members of SpaceX's Inspiration 4 mission were at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center to talk with students in the Aviation Challenge program.
The Inspiration 4 commander, Jared Isaacman, attended Aviation Challenge when he was just 12 years old. The Inspiration 4 flight will also carry a former Space Camp counselor to space, Chris Sombrowski.
Another key lesson shared by the crew today, any one of these kids at these programs in Huntsville could very much end up in their same shoes or spacesuits one day.
We are going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Aviation Challenge. And to do that, we have invited 3 giants in aviation to our campus. They embody the past, present, and future of aviation and exploration, and in my humble opinion, all that is good and right. Tuskegee Airmen Colonel George Hardy and Colonel James Harvey.
When I look out here at the kids, I see you have your whole future ahead of you. And going to Space Camp here, you're learning things. And I think you're very fortunate. But this is America, the land of opportunity. When you see an opportunity, take advantage of it and cling to it and fight for it.
All right, now I'd like to introduce you to the third person on our stage down here, Commander Victor J. Glover.
No matter what you want to be in life, these are some things that I think all of us could work on. I'm working on doing these things all the time. You can be resilient. Number 2 is to be a lifelong learner. And the last one is be a good teammate.
Thank you all so much for helping us celebrate 30 years here at Aviation Challenge, and hopefully many more to come.
As you can see, we were all glad for Space Camp to be back in 2021, and I'm looking forward to a number of exciting events on the horizon. We have kicked off an exciting series of events celebrating the first Artemis mission, which is scheduled for the end of this year or the beginning of next year. We are leading a community-wide committee to plan celebrations and raise awareness around Artemis. We hope that you all will be able to join us for some of these events over the next few months. We recently celebrated the groundbreaking of the new Space Camp Operations Building, which is slated to be open in 2023. This space will revolutionize Space Camp, offering 10 new classroom spaces, an all-new Space Camp program check-in area, and a new cyber mission control floor for U.S. Cyber Camp. This building will help to not only increase the footprint of Space Camp, but increase the educational value of our programs and enhance our trainees' experience. I am most excited about looking ahead to the future and all of the wonderful possibilities ahead for our programs. Next summer, our Space Camp programs are open to book at full capacity, and we look forward to welcoming students from both the United States and international locations. As we work to get back to a fully operational program, I want to take the time to again thank you for all your support and efforts to save Space Camp and helping to keep our center operational during one of the darkest times in our history. While we still have many financial challenges ahead to overcome due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are hopeful for the future and know that we can achieve great things together. In our museum, we are welcoming the Science of Guinness World Records exhibit. It is an amazing hands-on experience that promises to be fun and educational for the whole family. We will be only the second venue to host this exhibit, and we're excited to tie it into our own world record, which we earned in 2019 for the most model rocket kits launched simultaneously. I'd like to share one last thing with you. We are currently working to develop a strategic plan to help us move forward as we begin to emerge from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, I would like to present our new mission and vision that will guide us into the future as we work to inspire the spirit of discovery in everyone through education and immersive engagement. Our vision is to change lives, to change the world through the power and passion of exploration of our world and beyond. This weekend, whether you're taking part in AlumniFest virtually or visiting us here in Huntsville, I want you to know that I'm glad that you're part of the Space Camp alumni family. Together, we make the greatest impact on the future scientists, engineers, and astronauts of the future. And I couldn't do that without our wonderful team we have here on the ground in Huntsville. Let me introduce you to our Vice President of Programs, Robin Soprano, to share more about all of the fun ahead for Space Camp.
Hi, my name is Robin Soprano, and I serve as Vice President of Space Camp. I'm here on our Mission Center complex floor. And in fact, I'm in our lunar area. So this is our Orion capsule here that you see in the background. Here we do lunar missions, and it's a great part of our Space Camp programs. As we think about our summer program of 2021, just some highlights for you. Through the great efforts of you, our alumni base, were able to help us raise the funds to reopen our Space Camp doors. And so we had the opportunity to reset our culture here at Space Camp. And as we thought about how we could run more efficiently, we had the challenges of COVID and how we were going to operate safely, but we were able to do that. And when we reopened in May, to hear just the voices and the laughter, the trainees in the hall was just amazing and so heartfelt to know that we could return to our operations and make a difference in the lives of the kids that were able to come see us this summer. One of the new things we rolled out this summer was a cyber middle school program. This was the first summer that we were able to run our cyber high school program in any amount of volume, but we also introduced a middle school program, and it turned out to be a great success. We found that through COVID, kids are so resilient, and we're able to really to manage the COVID protocols that we had to run through with great success. We thought it would be a real challenge with masks and social distancing, but kids just really wanted to be here, and they were able to make that happen. So summer 2022, each year after summer, we step back and we do a deep dive into our curriculum, and we make adjustments and tweaks. We always look to update any of our space with all the great new things that are coming, all the commercial activities like Inspiration 4 and SpaceX and Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. We go back and we add those accomplishments into our curriculum to talk about what's coming down the pike. Across the board, we do look to introduce more drones, and we look at connecting the dots between our programs to add the connective tissue between our programs. Also for next summer, we'll be bringing back our 3-day family and adult programs. We found that our COVID programs, we did the 2-day, and those were successful. We will continue that throughout the off season, but in the summer, it'll be back to the 3-day traditional programs, and we're real happy about that. So as we think about how do we return to normal at Space Camp, and so we are currently revisiting our COVID protocols every 2 weeks, and we do make adjustments. We've made several throughout this summer. We have returned to full team sizes of 16 students, but we continue with our social distancing. It has taken many of our classrooms offline because there's not enough square footage to accommodate for social distancing, but each week we continue to evaluate. We ran this summer at about half capacity, and our goal is to be back to full capacity by summer of 2022. So other things, as we are revisiting our curriculum for next summer, we are looking at some additional updates. We bring back our robotics camp, and so we're real happy about that. And then we also, in our cyber programs, we always look to add realism there. So any information, we continue to work with the FBI there, and so some great updates there. In our AC programs, we're going to have the Helo Dunker back, which we're very happy about that. We had a great effort to get that here, and then now we're working to get it refurbished and to get it back up. And so we are continuing to hope that we can get our Mach 2 software simulation update there. We have a donation from Lockheed Martin for the software. We ran into supply chain issues in getting the graphics cards that we needed, so we are hopeful to be able to get that update in place to have new simulation software. We're starting with the Mach 2 sim bay there. Through our generous donation from Skydio, we have some great drones, and we introduced that into our curriculum this summer, and we'll continue to drill down a little bit in adding more drones and unmanned systems to all of our programs where it's appropriate. So as many of you have heard, we just had a groundbreaking for our new Space Camp Operations building, and this is going to be an amazing thing that we're adding to our campus. It's going to give us new classrooms, a 450-seat auditorium, a new check-in space, and it's just really going to be a fresh new face of Space Camp, and so we're so excited to be able to bring this to our campus. As you can see from these images, it's going to be a great new space for us. With the dedicated cyber area, we're going to have a cyber mission control, which is really going to be a great element of realism for our cyber students as they culminate their week in their cyber missions. Thank you so much for participating in this town hall. I really look forward to being able to meet many of you at our volunteer events that we have, and we always welcome your input into any of our programs and how we can make them better, how we can make them more impactful, and how we can make them more meaningful.
Hi, I'm Dottie Metcalf-Lindenburger, retired NASA astronaut, mom of a 14-year-old, and a geologist at Geosyntech Consultants, and also a former high school teacher for the Vancouver School District. I attended Space Academy in April of 1990. And that was just an amazing time. So what do I remember the most about my time at Space Camp? Well, I remember first coming in, and this was a big deal. It was my first time to fly by myself on an airplane. So I thought it was great that people met me at the airport there in Huntsville because I was a bit nervous. I remember taking the bus into camp and being really excited, but also a little bit nervous to meet new people. And then just right away, bonding with my roommates and having a lot of fun with them. I remember spending probably too much time up at night, but just wanting to make those friendships. And then during the day, I loved things like, I remember building our rockets and launching those. And I especially remember the simulations. My first time I was on the mission control team. And so I was working with weather and different decisions that need to help the flight director decide if we could, launch the vehicle and then help out during the mission. What I remember for my second simulation is that I was a scientist on board the vehicle, and I had a chance to do some experiments. And then also I remember getting to do a spacewalk, and it was so awesome to get to do the spacewalk. We were kind of working around the payload bay of the space shuttle. And I distinctly remember that at some point I forgot to click back on my tether, and I ended up floating away in space. That was not good. And that was just a reminder that there's all these safety checks that we make, and those are really critical and important for real spacewalks. So that was this really special time. And then, of course, one of the big things that was happening in April of 1990 was NASA was launching the Hubble Space Telescope into space. And so we talked a lot about that because it's going to be at the end of April of 1990. And I was at camp in April of 1990. So this mirror that we were talking about, there was a whole display at Space Camp, and it was just really interesting to me and fascinating. And then, of course, later as a high school teacher, I would use the images from Hubble to get my own students excited about space and to talk about all the stages of life cycles of stars, and to just think about black holes and nebula and what's the difference there, and in our own solar system, understanding that as well. So Hubble was just really important, and I started understanding about the significance of Hubble when I went to Space Academy. What part of my training or career development do you think best prepared me for the role as an astronaut? Well, it's very critical that all astronauts have a background in science, whether that's being an engineer or having a math and science background. You'll see a range of different experiences in astronauts, but everyone has some sort of career and training and educational training in science and engineering. And so I was a geologist. I studied and had the opportunity to do internships, and those pieces were important for my training. But also, of course, the other piece for me was that I was trained as an educator. I went back to school after having graduated as a geologist and got my teaching certification. And so when in 2004, they hired teachers as part of the astronaut class, of course, having that teacher specific training as well as being a scientist was important for my role to become an astronaut. And then I was an athlete, and astronauts have to be very physically fit. And so my time as a cross-country runner, both in high school and then in college, and as a track athlete, that paid off as well. And I could put in the extra physical training that is needed for being an astronaut. When trainees arrive at Space Camp, they are assigned to a team of 12 to 16 trainees. Can you talk about the importance of training together with that team, the support of the more veteran teams, and how that helped you prepare for your time in space? Well, the same way as as Space Camp trainees coming in and having different ranges of ages and experiences and science backgrounds, the same is true for astronauts. We come in as astronaut candidates. We cannot fly in space until we've done at least 1.5 to 2 years of training. And that's important because there's a common language that is needed at NASA to be able to talk to each other when you're in space, to know when to elevate problems, how to trap any problems and make sure that you don't make major mistakes. Again, we talked about the safety and my safety tether. That's a significant early thing that you learn in EVA training so that you won't float away. And so those come up as reminders. But the great thing about the way NASA builds teams and the way NASA builds the teams that are going to launch into space is that, of course, there will be veteran astronauts with rookie or brand new astronauts. And so we work together as a team and we learn from each other. We can ask questions of those with more experience, and we can watch them as models. You know, I watched people do spacewalks before I got into the pool and did them myself. Of course, when we were doing simulations, we would have an experienced astronaut doing the simulations with us. So we're learning the way they talk to the mission control, the way they prioritize the problems that are coming up during the simulation. Some things aren't as big of a deal as other things, and they can recognize that. So watching them, and then that helps you as the new astronaut think about how you're going to prioritize and work the simulations. And then eventually when you get to space, you get to watch your veteran astronauts as they're already adapted to moving around, and you are just the brand new person, and everything is awesome and incredible, but also you want to do a really good job, and so you can watch your more experienced colleagues, and that really comes through. So we see trainees come to Space Camp from being little to big, and those experiences, when they come back for the second or third time, of course they can share with those that are brand new. I only had the opportunity to go to Space Academy once, but for some that get to return multiple times or that live in the area, that's awesome. They have a great job at being a leader and being a mentor to those that are new and coming on board, and that is very similar to how astronauts train. What is the most memorable part about my shuttle mission and time on orbit? Well, I'm struck with many memories. The beauty of the Earth as you look down on it for the first time, and then multiple orbits thereafter. I'll never forget seeing significant geology locations. One of my favorite was getting to see the Rift Valley in Eastern Africa, and just the colors, and as a geologist knowing that those plates are dividing. It was an incredible moment. Also, I love the moment I picked out Crater Lake and then could figure out all the volcanoes in the Cascade Range. And I knew where Vancouver, Washington was, which is where I'd been teaching when I found out I was an astronaut. I knew where my friends and family in the Pacific Northwest were. And during that same orbit, we came across the front range of the Rocky Mountains where my parents are in Fort Collins, Colorado. And then we came out across Texas where my husband and daughter were at the time. And I could just find all those places. So that will always stick with me as a huge memory of my time in orbit. But another big piece, I mentioned the spacewalks. I didn't personally go outside and do a spacewalk, but I was the backup and I was the intravehicular crew member, which means I spoke to our astronauts when both of them are outside for all 3 spacewalks. And so I'll always remember those times because it's a big day. Spacewalk day is a huge day, and it's really critical in all the safety checks and just being with the crew members, talking them through what they're doing, and making sure that they're safe, and that, you know, when there's a moment to appreciate the beauty of the Earth, they can take that while something else is being solved. But every moment that they're out there is critical. And so just that's the ultimate teamwork. And I really, really enjoyed that. What are the most common questions you hear about going to space? Well, of course, everyone wants to know how you go to the bathroom in space. And that was the question that ultimately launched my career, because one of my students asked that question. And in doing the research to find out how exactly the space shuttle toilet worked, then I found out they were hiring teachers as part of the class of 2004. So of course that that question is one of my favorite questions, and because also it means that we can get to exploration. The way that we recycle urine and wastewater on orbit is not much different than how we do it here on Earth, although it is really, really clean in space, obviously. But of course, we have water cycles here on Earth, and of course, we have wastewater treatment plants, and your wastewater doesn't just go down the toilet and disappear, right? And so there is a whole process for making sure that the people downriver or you know, wherever you live, that those things get treated so that people don't get sick. And that's really important. And the same thing, of course, then for our astronauts. But in space, water is a significant resource, and it's a limiting resource, right? It's really expensive to launch water when you could launch other things to space, including crew members. And so if you can reuse urine, which we are able to, and we can also reuse sweat and that water vapor that you breathe out, and recover that, treat it, and then allow it to be used as tomorrow's coffee or juice. That's really important. And we need that as we get ready to go back to the moon, and then as we look on to Mars, because of course, while there is the potential to get water on those surfaces, it will be expensive to extract. So you'll want to protect that resource and be able to recover it and not have to keep mining for it or using processes that would be really expensive to extract it. So I'm really glad that question was asked. And it's just, like I said, from the, well, how does it exactly work, to the scientific piece of it, which is really important for exploration. It's a great question. What are my thoughts about America's renaissance in space and what is going on right now? Well, I think we're in really exciting times. It's interesting to see how each of these different companies figures out new ways to launch people to space, how they are recovering their own stages so that they can be reused. There's just a lot of different thought. There's a lot of ingenuity. I think it's very exciting times. And you see the public becoming excited about it, watching these launches. They too wonder what tourists are going to do, or what these new astronauts are going to experience. And it maybe makes them think about, well, what would it be like if I went as well? So I think we're in exciting times. It also means that people have to think about, again, their stewardship and what it means for them to launch into space. Is it just for tourism? Are they going to do science? You know, each person has different answers to this. And when they come back, what will they do with that experience? Will they also share with young people? Will they make big changes to life here on Earth? I think that's still to be seen, and it leaves room for a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Given the chance to return as an Artemis astronaut, would you be excited about an opportunity to go to the moon? Well, if I still worked at NASA and I had not retired, I think it would be very exciting to know that we want to put women and minorities on the surface of the moon. There is a lot to still understand on the surface, from the geology that I'm of course curious about, but also just the engineering and working on a surface that has less gravity, and also that it, you know, has limited resources and resources that we have to protect in order to live there. So it's again, this is really exciting times. It's going to take a lot of teamwork. It's going to take international work, and I'm glad to watch and cheer on those that will be returning, especially women and minorities that will get that first chance to land on the moon. For all those who have been inspired by their time at Space Camp or are hopeful future trainees, and those who want to become astronauts or part of the human spaceflight community, what is my advice for them? Well, the awesome thing about coming to Space Camp is that it sparks an interest and it gives you a real insight into how the pipeline works. How do you become an astronaut? Or how do you become a part of the space community? That is what I really took away, besides the friendships and the understanding of Hubble and just the excitement of having been in simulations. But what really struck me was I finally knew a pathway to becoming an astronaut. And that hadn't been so clear when I had just talked with guidance counselors or other people that knew I was interested in space. Now it's a little bit easier nowadays because, of course, of having the internet, and there's so many people that can post their stories up. But that wasn't as clear when I was a young woman, and that was one of my big takeaways. And I really think that's still a big part of what Space Camp does. So whether you're a little kid attending the first time with your family, or you've gone through one of the camps from elementary school through high school, or if you're coming back as a parent or an educator, there's just so many parts along the way that can help you understand how we do work in the aerospace community, how there's more and more opportunities. It's not just going to be launching through government assets, but there's going to be companies that you can work at, that you can innovate at and be part of the aerospace community. Or like I said, you could even become a space tourist. So those are all the things that I hope that trainees take away and take back to their community, and also take into their future. How exciting. And any last advice I would give? Well, the biggest piece of advice that I would give is to always be curious. It was curiosity that got me to Space Academy. It was curiosity that helped me look up that answer to the question about how do you go to the bathroom in space? And it's curiosity that makes every day interesting to me. So always be curious, and don't be afraid to work hard. When I was at Space Camp, I told you those days were long, and I stayed up at night too. And I remember being tired, but it was because we were working hard. I remember filling out my notebooks and taking lots of notes during lectures, and then also really enjoying the simulations and the activities we were doing. The same was true when I went back to the classroom. I worked really hard, and I also did that as an athlete. When I became an astronaut, I again had to work hard to pass all of the practical training and all the written training tests, and then to ultimately be a part of a crew and an active crew member. Hard work isn't bad. I actually love it. It's what makes life also interesting. But don't be afraid to do it, because anything that's worth doing is going to need that hard work. And then lastly, I would hope that you do something that brings you joy, or that you are passionate about. So I've always been passionate about science, whether I was doing it, whether I was teaching about it, or now where I'm trying to inspire others to continue in the pathway of doing science. But also, like I said, I'm a geologist, and I'm working to conserve the resources we have here on Earth and make sure that one of the things we continue to have is clean water. So be passionate about what you do, enjoy the experiences and the people that you work with, and you will have a long and fulfilling life no matter what you end up doing. And I hope that you will shoot for your big dreams, because there's so many opportunities now for you. That would be my biggest advice. So have a great Alumni Fest. I'm sorry I cannot be in personal attendance, but I'm there with you in spirit. Take care.
Thanks for watching. We hope to bring you more great virtual content Saturday. And if you're around, come visit us out here at Aviation Challenge.